Hello, and welcome back. My name is Michael Kastman. Thank you for joining me for another After Hours live stream. Um, Let me tell you today about a very simple problem and a very simple solution. But this simple problem is one of the primary reasons that so many marketing funnels fail. I was working with a client recently, and when they bring me in to help analyze their funnels, one of my primary concerns is looking at their sales copy. And the two fundamental things that I look at when I'm auditing somebody's funnel is clarity. So how clear is the copy, and congruence. How aligned is the copy? How aligned is the messaging? Those are the two core things that I look for, and those are sometimes the two most commonly missed issues, which is a huge problem because they are absolutely essential to properly communicating your sales message. We're going to take a brief look at both of these, but we are going to spend most of our time on the second, which is congruence, because it is a rupture in congruence, which is one of the primary and one of the simplest issues that cause most marketing funnels to fail. So let's talk about this. Why is clarity and congruence so important? The reason for that is because essentially an advertisement is meant to communicate a message in a coherent way, and it's meant to communicate a desirable message in a sufficient way to elicit a response from the audience. To do that, really, your message just has to be one, clear, and two, it has to be congruent, meaning that it aligns with what the prospect expects when they expect to get it. That's really all you need for an ad. You could run the ugliest, most low budget advertisement imaginable, but if you had clarity and you had congruence, you would still get conversions from your core audience. And so that's why I focus on those two items specifically. So let's talk about clarity. So when I say that copy has to be clear, what I mean is that copy has to be simple. The message must be simple. It must be coherent, and it must be concise. Coherent simply meaning that it makes sense. Concise meaning that you don't use any more time or any more words to tell the story that you need to tell or to convey the message that you need to convey to get your prospect to take action. You want to use just the right amount of words, not necessarily the fewest number of words, but just the right amount. That's what being concise is. And so clarity is about coherence, it's about being comprehensible, and it's about being concise. But what we're most concerned about is that your message has to make sense. It has to be congruent, both in relation to what you have already communicated to your prospect and in relation to where your prospect is on the buying journey. I've covered this in a previous video where I talked about how if your message doesn't match where your prospect is, then your advertisement isn't going to work because your prospect isn't in a frame of mind to accept your advertisement and then act on it. Maybe they're more developed, so they need a more direct message, or they are less developed, so they need a more indirect message. The idea of congruence is similar to that. Now, let's talk about how you can practically think about congruence in your advertisement or in your marketing funnel, period. What congruence is about is making sure that your transitions, both on a micro level, like let's say you have a landing page, your transitions make sense one from another. You're not making too much of a leap. You're not asking your prospects to make too much of a leap of faith. It just makes good logical sense, one phase to the next. But then you have a more macro level, which is making sure that all of the different pieces of your marketing funnel make sense going from one to the next to the next. if you go from something like a really indirect sales message, like maybe something similar to an advertorial, which is more or less a blog post, it's an advertisement disguised as a blog post. But if you go from something like that to a straight offer page, that's probably going to cause a lot of disconnect, because the audience that's going to respond well to an advertorial isn't usually quite ready to make a big leap to making a purchase. You probably need to push them from an advertorial to something that's a little more in between. That is an example of congruence. But let me give you a concrete example, because I recently worked with a client, and this was an issue that I solved for them. So what happened was, my client was sending an email to their list, a segment of their list, basically with an email saying, hey, congratulations, you've won a free t-shirt. Click here to claim your free shirt. Very simple, very concise, not a whole lot to understand there. But what happened was, when the prospect clicked on the link, it took them to a page that started out with big bold letters, thank you for attending XYZ event. As a thank you for attending, we're happy to announce that we are awarding over 6,000 shirts to everybody who attended the event. And then it went on and on and on to, profusely thank the person for joining them. It explained the reason why for the giveaway, the details of the giveaway, and then it finally mentioned, okay, hey, and by the way, if you're here to claim your shirt, click here to claim your shirt, and blah, blah, blah. I noticed a few glaring issues right off the bat, and maybe you did too, just hearing that. But the first problem is that the core message of the email was click here to claim your free shirt. But the core message of the landing page was thank you for attending our free event. That's already right off the bat, that is a breach of congruence. The core message of the email did not match the core message of the landing page. But it gets worse. What I found out was that the email that was sent out for people to claim their free shirt, it went out to a whole segment of the list that included people who hadn't actually attended the event. And so when people click to claim their free shirt, and then they go to a page that says, thank you for attending the event, but it's for an event that they never actually attended, that is a huge rupture of congruence. Because of course you're going to get to the page and be like, hey, I didn't attend the event. Maybe I don't actually get a free shirt like I thought I did. And then they're going to bounce. So that's a big problem. But even further, eventually the landing page does get around to telling the visitor that they can claim their free shirt. But it's so far down the page, and they have to get through so many different details, not interested, and they are probably talking themselves out of it. The thing is that when people read your advertisement, they are looking for a reason to not keep reading, which means that everything that you put in your ad needs to be relevant and motivate them to keep reading. Whereas the stuff we're talking about right here, there is about 1,000,001 ways that a prospect would have gone to the page, immediately sensed, hey, this isn't for me. I don't belong here. This offer isn't targeted to me, and they would have left. And that's why the page was performing so badly. And so what I did was I went in and I just unified the messaging. That's more or less all I did, other than I also simplified and clarified. So coming back to clarity, that was another issue that the page had. It was just way too many words to describe something that could have been expressed in a much more concise manner. But the biggest change that I made to that page was simply creating alignment between the message in the email and the message in the page. And only after that did I go back and then trim things down and make things more concise. Now, that is really it for today. It's going to be a pretty short stream, but what I'd like to offer for you is if you want another set of eyes on your marketing funnel or on your advertisements, I would be more than happy to help you. This is something that I do for my clients all the time, and it is often helpful to get an extra pair of eyes, because when you are in the trenches writing your own advertisements, you have the curse of knowledge. And so you don't always see what other people see. You don't always have the ability to think like an outsider thinks. And let's face it, these kinds of issues, primarily the lack of congruence, these are problems that every single business has because it's so easy to make these mistakes, especially if you run lots of ads, if you reuse lots of templates, if you rerun old ads, or if you're constantly modifying ads. And because what happens is you create a funnel and then you go back and you start changing things here and there, but you're not necessarily changing all of the assets in the funnel. So what you can end up having is you have certain assets that reflect the original unchanged messaging, and then you've got other assets that have been modified to reflect a change that somebody in the marketing department wanted. And so now those are mismatched. And then somebody said, hey, let's run a split test, this page versus another page, and they have different messaging, but they're using the same ad to drive traffic to both. And now you have messaging mismatch in two different ways. And it just snowballs from there. You can see how quickly the issue of rupturing congruence can happen to any business. And that's just, that was a really simple example. A lot of businesses have extremely complex ad structures, which means, and of course, the more complex that something is, the more ways that something can go wrong, right? So, like I said, if you would like help in your business, getting a second pair of eyes on your marketing funnels, if you'd like me to audit something for you, I'd be more than happy to do that. Simply shoot me an email at mike@shatterpoint.pro, and I will be more than happy to read what you have to say. And if it makes sense, I'd be happy to book a call with you, talk about what you need, and make sure that you are all squared away. That is all for this evening, and I would like to wish you many conversions, greater and greater success, and I will talk to you again very soon.